I'm doing well. I'm here in northern Wisconsin,
Oh, lovely.
and I'll be here for another month, God willing, and heading back to Florida. But we'll see. We'll see where I'm meant to spend the winter.
Right. Go with the flow.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to the Lord.
God, it's so good to see you. So long. So long.
Sweet. The Zoom is great. I love just the intention and coming together. You know, it's the intention brought us together to have this conversation and to share, and it's beautiful. It's exciting.
It really is. Oh, it so is. I'm just beaming with joy. This is the best birthday gift ever.
Oh, that's right. Happy birthday. I
Just
forgot.
be here with you. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you
That's so beautiful.
so much.
Amazing.
So I wanted to get together with you because I am taking this month of yoga to focus on our men's health and wellness overall. And in just being an observer and listening to so many needs of our male community, a lot of it has to do with loneliness, discouragement, feeling unsatisfied, and more than just the intimate ways. And going through their own emotions of loneliness or not having the outlets or community. Maybe a lot of women seem to feel more comfortable in having those connections with and being able to share more vulnerability. And so in past conversations with other gentlemen and speaking, they all kind of mentioned about that shedding of the layers of vulnerability in our male community and the stigmas with that. And I wanted to talk to you because I just love you altogether, but I also love how you've been able to capture that essence of masculinity and femininity in both aspects, and been such a beautiful inspiration of how you can still be very strong in your manness and the identity of a man, but still represent and listen to the softer, the more feminine, the Shakti pot of who we are, and inviting. I love how Ryan Taylor said, the mother's heartbeat is the first sound of the drum that we hear, the first vibration that we hear inside of her. And when we come out, that's the sound of the drum is what stimulates our awakening. And I wanted to have you elaborate on how yoga has helped you in your life, from where you were back when you first discovered yoga to where you are now, and how it's helped you on your journey personally and with your relationships with everyone, and how the process goes through you. So, you know, with women and with men, but as a man, and from this world of a male perspective, how can we dismantle these facades of what yoga is, and for other men to embrace it and experience it more and not be afraid to and be a part of something that's new?
Wow. It's a lot.
We can probably have a couple meetings on this conversation.
Well, it's a beautiful inquiry. And, you know, like what I'm present to, you know, right now. One is, you said, like balancing this, we could say masculine and feminine, or kind of being entangled in the world, or being lost in like emptiness, you know, kind of how we all are searching for balance. Mm-hmm. You know, each one of us are coming forth to search and try to find balance in our lives. And, you know, so I know, of course, my own journey is in some ways unique for me, but I think my journey, just like everyone else's, is very similar in many ways. It's like, well, what are the similarities? And I spent most of the summer here in Wisconsin with my father. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting because we're like yin and yang. You know, it's really interesting to be in this dynamic where Could you hear me still? Because the volume's shaking up a little bit.
I hear you.
Can't hear you anymore.
Oh, because I'm not talking.
It started mumbling or something. Anyways, so you can hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay. I think, my dad's this example where growing up, my dad was very kind of coming from a military background, and where it was not much spirituality, not much philosophy, not much, could we say, like intimate conversation of talking about feelings and emotions and relationships. That was never really there, and even now is quite odd or unfamiliar territory. So for me, whereas I grew up in a different generation where it's quite normal for me to be able to have, say, intimate or emotional conversations with my brothers, with my friends, men that are connected or tapped into their, say, the Shakti or the feminine energy. And I think, for me and lots of brothers that are connected to that, it's of course this vital lifeline where we don't have to, or I don't have to, because I speak for myself, feel like my masculinity is threatened when I connect to a softer quality, feminine, or I share or talk about my emotions or areas maybe where I'm vulnerable, that I've come to a place through the help of so many people, men and women, masculine and feminine, because sometimes we see something, maybe too masculine, and we see how softening would create more space, whether it's in the physical body or the mental body, the emotional body, or we may see where if we're too soft and too feminine, adding a little bit more masculinity may serve the purpose. And this could show up in so many different ways. So I think, from the time I was a really basically a baby in bed listening, I think my first studies was listening to my parents fighting. Kind of listening to the tone, whether the tone was, it's like major or minor or masculine or feminine, whether it was truthful or deceitful, whether it was nurturing, which we could say nurturing would be feminine, this feminine quality of additional love, or whether it would be maybe coming from a different place, which is like maybe my way or the highway. Like my way is the right way, versus maybe there's a conversation and there could be many ways. And so I think for me, early on, I started to listen to that, and was just as growing up, kind of trying to find my place in a world in which I felt like didn't make much sense. Like wanting to connect more to the spirit, and wanting to connect more with ceremony, and wanting to connect more with what I know of now as like cosmic consciousness or God, what I say is God, and not having really any of that in the dialogue, whether it be at home or even in school. It was almost as if the society had stripped this such important element or nutrient, our lifeline to God, to the creator, to our uniqueness, our unique way of showing up in the world. And there wasn't much nurturing of that. So unless, I felt growing up, unless I fit into the system or the structure of how it was designed, that in some way I was failing. So growing up, going through the schooling system, I could never really find my groove in the schooling and in the kind of the family life, because I was searching for a community or tribe. And I think that searching for a deeper truth, that search for God, that search for the light, that search for harmony, the search for, you say, the drum beat, the rhythm, the search for all of these things that now I know, which is, this feels right. This feels right for me. And trusting in those feelings. I think that was the early yoga practice, which was the inquiry, and, this language resonates with me and this doesn't. And of course, hurting myself or hurting others along the way, growing up, noticing in my own struggle and of discovering who I was and my relationship with God, and how I was meant to fit in everything. I think all of that, of course, led me to yoga, of course, because yoga is this incredible science of it's like who we are and what's the purpose of our life. And yoga doesn't have only one path. There's many paths to meet the yogi, the person aspiring to seek truth. So wherever you happen to be, wherever Christina happens to be, or wherever Moses happens to be, or any of our friends, or anyone, wherever you happen to be, it will speak to you if you're willing to listen, and will guide you on the journey. When you say, okay, I want to be guided, and I want to learn, and I want to surrender to this higher power. And I think so for me, along the way, the God, the Great Spirit that guides us, the more we are open to receiving and seeing God in all people, all situations, and all circumstances, then the source guides us to the communities we need to be in, so we could learn, and so we can grow, and so we can blossom. And then, that just continues. We continue to refine and continue to hopefully polish, and of course, keep learning. For me, is keep learning about who am I, are we, what's my relationship with the creator of all creation, through my experience of remembering or awakening to who I am. How can I share that? How can I share my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, my journey, my creativity, my self-expression, which is all the divine self-expression coming through me? How can I share this in a way in which could possibly touch someone, uplift someone, encourage someone, comfort someone, and which for me is really acknowledging how much comfort that I've received from other people sharing themselves and putting themselves out there. And so for me, this process of going back to the well, going to the yoga, it's basically, it's a never ending well of divine love. And as children, we're all, for me, we're children of God. And, when I grew up, I wasn't raised in any way to connect with God. We never spoke about God in my family. This just came from paying attention to the miracle that is constantly surrounding us, that you know, in everything, in the wind, in the water, in the sun, in all of the creatures, the diversity, you know, the abundance, and just which is kind of beyond my mind to comprehend it all, that I feel and know that there's a source, a creator that created this, even though I can't quite understand how it's all working. It's feels right for me.
Yeah.
You know, it feels right, and it uplifts me and inspires me. It puts me in that place where, yeah, I'm feeling love.
Just because you can't see the wind doesn't mean it's not there.
Yeah, I'm feeling this love, and I think, you know, I think ultimately, as children, because a lot of the work that I do is empowering people to connect with their authentic voice, their truth, to move beyond the fear that may get in the way of expressing yourself, whether that expression is an intimate conversation at home or with a loved one. It could be husband, wife, brother, sister, or friend. It could be anyone. Like going beyond the surface and sharing a deeper layer of yourself, or whether it's stepping into teaching or sharing, expressing yourself at work, expressing yourself, you know, here, coming on a Zoom call and being able to talk freely and openly. And I know all the different layers and barriers of fear that I navigated through to come to a place of presence and awareness, and whatever level of comfort and ease, you know, for me, it's dropping into an ease and a comfort to be with my sister, to be with you, and to share. And that, you know, I want to share for others so they can overcome those fears. It's like we're all brothers and sisters, so this is natural. It's natural for us to want to share with our brothers and sisters and uplift them and nurture them. And so may use this word nurture them as feminine, but it's such a part of masculine too, is nurturing. And I think, you know, coming back, hey, as little children, when we were babies, just wanted to be loved. Whether you were a young boy, baby, or a young girl, you wanted to be loved from your mother, and you wanted to be nurtured, and that never goes away. But I think what happens in our culture so often is, at a certain point, maybe the boy is told, you know, don't be a sissy, or don't be a bitch. And then all of a sudden, the system gets shocked. And then it's like, what happens is like confusion. Well, I have these feelings and emotions, but it appears in many people's environment, not everyone, but in this conversation, that the feeling for a young boy, a young boy growing up, is there's not a place for expression of the feminine. And it's interesting because it's, you know, I think I kind of shift into a different framework, which is more like we're all born. This is a belief of something that I feel resonates as a truth for me, which is we're all born into the perfect family and the perfect situation and the perfect circumstance for us. So we can grow and we can blossom into whatever it is we're meant to blossom into. And so the young boy, I could say for myself, that wanted as a young boy so much to have more intimacy with my father, you know, that which I wanted and didn't seem to get was exactly what I needed. In some way beyond my understanding of it, that maybe when I was younger, it could even be younger this morning, that a victim conversation. Oh, I had it bad, or it was wrong. But no, that I have this deep feeling that there was something so perfect about it. How what I wanted was something so different, and to settle into accepting that this is how it is between, and that I have to take responsibility, and I have to tap into that feminine energy to find balance. And that each person, no matter what their particular situation or circumstances, we all have to do that. We all have to find this cosmic rhythm and this harmony, whether it's like we're talking about a young boy who's in a dominated masculine environment, needing to express and be connected to his feminine consciousness, or vice versa. That environment is beyond my understanding of why it all happened exactly the way it did. But now that I'm here and I'm awakening and more conscious, I get to choose. I get to choose, what do I want to put in my body? What do I want to put in my mind? How do I want to feed myself? And how do I want to nourish my friends and my community? And I think one kind of like a cosmic joke is you gotta be really masculine to connect to your femininity. You know, like you have to be connected to that, because I get goosebumps, because so often I could see it in myself, not to judge anybody, because we're all going through this experience at some level or some layer. So if I talk about someone, I'm talking about myself. But oftentimes I could see someone that's so rooted in the masculine and completely disconnected from the feminine. And that what I see is, wow, it would really take some courage. Really take some courage for that person to drop the guard and drop the familiar and the alpha male, or what we want to drop out of that. It's not so easy. So you really have to, in some ways, it's kind of like know the self. You have to do the work. And this is, I feel like this is how God is in all of our hearts. It's like, hey, if we want to connect to that divine, we have to do the work. And if the work says you need to soften, and we say, no, I'm not going to soften because my society or my community or my family says I shouldn't soften, then we have to pay the price, so to speak, which is not having access to that nectar. So,
you know, talk to me about when you discovered divine consciousness for yourself. When did you discover God in your path, from not really being brought up with it, but knowing that it's something that was calling you as a child? And now that your eyes, and you don't even see with your eyes, you see with your mind, you go beyond that, and you can really feel this connection, that intimacy with source. How and when did you discover that moment where it was that aha moment? In, you know, how in Christianity, that moment where they were saved, you know, that moment where they were connecting to Jesus, or they had the Holy Spirit fall over them. And what I love so much about you is that you have that spirituality, that nectar, that connectedness in your practice personally, and what you offer, and the language that you use. You spoke to the language, and that was really important, because I feel that either it resonates with you or it doesn't. And so how in that moment of connecting to source and God, that language maybe that's transformed for you, your inner dialogue, that anamaya kosha portion where we were furthest from God, and now we literally just slingshot through to anandamaya kosha, almost in that space where you're connecting to source, that moment of being just in bliss with, yes, I feel that sense of transformation.
Well, what is coming through is there's been maybe lots of moments, and some of them were intellectual moments, like the mind has a realization. And then there could be this, like, for me, it's interesting, because what was coming through is just even this summer, you know, when COVID hit, at the beginning of, well, for me, was like, say in March, sometime in March, I was perfectly fine, and then the next day I couldn't walk. And I was in just excruciating pain. And of course, I know on some level it didn't come out of nowhere. You know, it's like when we're listening and paying attention, things are building up.
Right.
And so I was going through just a really challenging time physically, with a lot of pain, and it was also emotional, because they're connected. So it's a challenge, but it's also a gift too, because, hey, we're going through this. This is, our human bodies are temporary, you know, so we're gonna experience a certain level of pain and disease. And then, you know, I went out to California, and my partner, Bella, my dog of 10 years, she got sick and she ended up passing. And I was just, I was hurting so bad. And, you know, I was making myself wrong. I was feeling guilty about different things. And I was noticing, you know, I was observing what Moses was going through. So the practice was, you know, I was in it, but I also had freedom to know I was going through this storm, and I needed to go through it, like to feel, and to feel the physical pain and the emotional pain, and to feel the loss, but to know that there was no loss, to know that, like, I knew that there was no loss, that we're not our bodies. You know, this relationship with my belief says, no, I'm not, I can never be taken from my mother, that or my father. I may not see their physical body again, but so I knew this, and I believed in that, but the pain was just so intense. And when I came to Wisconsin, in the middle of May, I was, you know, going down to the lake at night and praying. And I was basically having these conversations with God in a completely new and intimate way. And it's like, so yeah, it's like, I get goosebumps. It's
Ooh,
like,
yeah, I feel them too. I was like, ooh, wow.
like, like I'm like, ah, like, it's taking my breath away. Like I'm sitting at the lake, and I'm like, I'm in the temple. I'm like, God is the water and the sky, and is communicating with me, and is holding me, and loving me, and it's like another layer of the aha for me. Like, all along the way, different moments, different experiences, you crossing your path, knowing your devotion to God and other people, all these, it's kind of like you see someone and it's like the right place at the right time. And so it's like, and then you're paying attention, and it's just like, so God keeps showing up over and over and over and over and over again. And then it's like, okay, for me, it was like, a big part was letting go of all the things and actions and language that were getting in the way of me having these miracle moments every day and all day long with every person I met, to see God in you, and to just like be just so moved, just be so moved by that. And
Yes, I feel you.
yeah, so there's been this, I remember, part of me is like, I'm in that discovery now of finding whatever the next level or layer of balance for Moses is in this new earth. And it's like being here right now with you. It's like showing up, and this summer was like, yeah, being playful. Like, I'll go out in the lake every day and I swim. And one of my very good best friend teachers, his name is Eric, beautiful brother, and can have any type of a conversation with him. He's been there for me for 20 years, and we can talk about anything. And he goes in the water every day. And I was thinking of him because when I go in the water, I'll float and I'll play and I'll explore, but I'll also swim laps. And I could see, like, the swimming of the laps is this structure, this masculine part of me. And then floating in the water and allowing myself to just be soaking and nurturing myself, and letting the waves take me, and I'm noticing, okay, God is guiding me through my friends, through you, through the water, to find this balance. And when one way of being is necessary, then I could actually have the freedom to express that. And if something else is more appropriate, then I can have the freedom to tap into that and express that. And then like, for me, having these kind of, quote, men friends, brothers, that are connected to their femininity has been such a lifesaver for me. You know, just acknowledging my teacher, Alec Rubin. I met Alec when he was 83. And Christina, we used to do a 5-hour workshop.
Wow.
Every Sunday for about 5 years.
What was it on?
And maybe the first hour of class, we would just come into the yoga room, lay on the floor, and and just start unraveling. And then we'd spend about an hour making sounds like an infant, reconnecting to this quality, this energetic quality, the freedom of expression that you had when you were an infant, whether it was moving like a baby or making sound. And for a masculine man to lay on a floor and cry like a baby, what it took was having this super masculine teacher, Alec, who was also super connected to the importance of the femininity of the inner child, and that he guided me, and he guided the other students, they were men and women, into that it's okay. And not only is it okay, but he encouraged that our deepest truth was our authentic voice and what was true for us. And, you know, and I only think it's just like by the grace of God that at the right time in the right place that we meet the right people. And if we're ready to receive, if we're ready to be interested in
divine appointments.
Yeah. And so, yeah, just big shout out to, and thanks to, you know, not only that, but like for you, all the women, all the goddesses, all the powerful sisters that are acknowledging this element and creating this dialogue, this conversation. It's interesting because I'm going to send you a link, but one of my teachers, her name is Gaia Budai from Synergy. She had founded Synergy Center in South Beach some 30 years ago. But she sent me a roundtable podcast a couple weeks ago of a discussion with 7 men.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah. And she said, she really encouraged us to listen to it, because she said there was some real nectar there. And the discussion was very similar to what you're asking. So it's kind of like, hey, the Great Spirit is talking to the people to say, hey, talk to your friends and talk to community, because this is a conversation that's medicine. Like, this is medicine to be had. And one of the thoughts was, okay, well, what would we like to see more of for men in the yoga community?
Yes.
And I think this is a perfect example. More discussions, you know, more discussions and more things, more opportunities, more doorways, more bridges, you know, bridges, doorways, you know, different opportunities for men of all different levels to be invited, to be encouraged, to be enticed to, into, you know, we could say that the exploration of the self.
Right.
And there could be so many different ways that each unique creative person thinks of creating some type of event or something that invites people that normally wouldn't on their own, like go to an event, but they end up going to an event and they see something and they hear something, or they meet somebody, and that's the divine, you know, and at the right place, the right time, and
That's
it's
how we met.
happening. Yeah, it's happening all over all the planets,
It's
and
so
it's happening because we're pollinating, and we're, you know, we're part of, we could say, the bloodline, the light line of light workers, and we keep coming back and get what we drawn. We're drawn like the bee to the flower. We're drawn to the nectar, the truth, the divine, and maybe along the way there's resistance and there's struggle and there's kicking and fighting, but we keep getting up and
doing it again. You know, I love what
so
you said. I still have this hat. I wear it all the time. It's one of my favorite hats. If you can't see God in everything, you can't see God at all. And it's my
I
favorite hat.
I was just looking at those patches right before I got on the phone with you.
It is my favorite hat. I wear it all the time. If you can't, and you know, it takes somebody very bold. It's a very confident hat to wear. You know, it's something that sparks a lot of conversation, and I've worn it to church, and I've worn it in Sangha. I've worn it just outside just to hang out, and I really appreciate the response it gets. It strikes the conversations that people are so, like you had said at one point, the barriers of fear. They find it very uncomfortable to talk about spirituality and seeing source, God, Atman, and everything. And in each other, because I feel a lot of where the direction of where yoga is going with this movement of social justice and racial equity and activism and purpose and power and empowerment, we really need to do the internal work. We really need to find those dismantles within ourselves, those fears and those barriers. And like you said, make the right choices. Discover the word surrender. And how do we react to the word surrender from a male perspective and a female perspective? And I really appreciate how you're able to offer this through your gifts. And I want to take the last 10 minutes because I want to invite you back to do another interview and dive a little bit deeper into some of the topics we touched on tonight. And then also invite you also to a panel where we'd be live with you and Mitchell Blyer and a couple of the other yoga teachers and spiritual leaders and guides that we've been, and other just men that have utilized the outlets that they've received from your teachings in their wellness businesses, that they do other healing work, and have you all come together to speak to these truths that you are awakening in a lot of us, because they align very much with some of the other men that we interviewed. So if you could tell me, talk about Moses, what Moses does, what Moses teaches, Moses, how we can get in touch with Moses, and the I Love Yoga brand as well, because you know how I feel about that. It's like my favorite #ambassador.
Well, you know what, I'm so, this is so many different ways in which we connect, you know, and it's me and you, but all of us, you know, we all have, I get goosebumps, we all have such special, unique relationships with each other, and which really deserves time to continue nurturing. You know, like I was saying to my family, you know, my father, like, hey Dad, what if we made a list of like 10 things that I can do, that you can do, that my brother can do, and that we can do to make the family stronger, to make our relationship stronger, to bring more trust and unity. And you know, this conversation is not just with my father, you know, it may be more challenging with my father because it's not so received or not so understood, because it's in some ways a foreign language. But in the community, I'm like looking, you know, when I talk to the different people I'm co-creating with and manifesting with, you know, that's a conversation that's like underlines like, how can we bring more support to each other? And how can we, with the gifts that we've been given, how can we support the community? So, and at the same time, like I'm noticing, okay, well, what am I doing? You know, now I've come to this place where I'm learning and studying music. And as a child growing up, we can talk about the masculine and feminine, and I never connected with teachers that I felt like I had a really incredible connection with, and where I was as a child learning how to learn, like engaging a certain part of the mind that understood what it took to learn certain things. I learned other things. So I spent most of my life thinking that I don't understand music and that I'm a spectator. And in this lifetime that I'd been given certain gifts, but I had to settle and be okay with that I would never be making music. And part of the awakening was as I devoted myself to service and to community and to other things and putting myself in vulnerable situations in Sangha and community, that veil of illusion, that I started to discover my voice. I started to hear rhythm, that heartbeat. I started to feel this possibility. The light was coming in, and of having a studio for 17 years and community, I came to a place where I said, okay, now I'm 50, and what do I want to devote my time and energy to in addition? Like, what am I ready to let go of? So for me now is studying music, learning the guitar, and being able to share music and share teachings, share the philosophy, share the mantras, share sacred songs with people and with community and with my family. And so I'm still on the message of, I mean, we've been talking a lot on this conversation. I got to a place in my life where I was like, I don't want to listen. I don't want to talk anymore. I want to sing. I want to have access to that and dive into the relationship with the divine musically. So, you know, now what a day looks like, I'm getting up and walking in the woods and praying, chanting to God, and doing my artwork, letting this relationship with the divine inspire art, whether it be clothing that has love and certain energy in it, whether they're symbols, pictures of an eagle, a mantra, whatever it happens to be, that, like you said, hey, I wear this hat and I connect with people, and then from that connection there's cosmic conscious conversation and an opportunity for invitation, opportunity for friendship. And so for me, I get, okay, this is something I love to do. I've been designing t-shirts since 11 years old. So I've been doing this now for 41 years. And so I have my I Love Yoga brand, iloveyoga.com, and I'm rebuilding the I Love Yoga website. So I'm forwarding iloveyoga.com. It goes to my Etsy page. which I really love. Just connecting with people all over the world, that go on Etsy that maybe I would never have met. And so I'm designing things I've never designed before, and I'm having just feels so good to be able to be in that expression. And I'm sending out lots of postcards and lots of gifts to friends and people in my life. Are you there?
Yes, there you are.
I'm looking at like what messes I've made in my life, where I could say where what's coming through now, where I in the moment didn't have access to being more feminine and more soft, and I was more abrasive, and that abrasiveness damaged a relationship. So I'm in this inquiry to love and forgive myself, and then to reach out and connect and to communicate, because I think we're always in this we're balancing, we're in this dance of who do we need to be, and sometimes we need to be strong and fierce. We need that, but loving and kind, and so how do we be loving and kind and fierce? And I think, like with the guitar, when we're learning, we keep screwing up. Like, so when we're learning to balance the feminine and the masculine, sometimes we're going to screw up, and we're going to say things that we don't necessarily aren't in alignment with, bringing harmony, or we say something and it's abrasive, it hurts someone. So I'm looking at clearing and cleaning the space, and then I'm super inspired by what you're doing, and how conscious, professional you were, and how you're bringing these people together, you're bringing this conversation together. So I'm inspired by you to do the same, to use my relationships and use this technology to bring people together, to conversate, I'm inspired to shine the light on what other people are doing and other people's stories. I think it's like one way, like you're doing, well, how do I help the world? Well, this is one way. So yeah, I'm really inspired by what you're doing, and it's activating me to do something similar. Like, hey, Christina's doing a retreat, I could do, or she's teaching a class, I could do something similar, because there's nothing but abundance. We're just like all here to inspire each other.
And now we can do it together. We can do it co-hosting online together in these beautiful different environments that we live in. And, why do we limit ourselves? Why are we limiting ourselves? No limit.
Well, it's a good question. And I guess when we realize, if I realize that, it keeps coming up with my father and I when we butt heads, is like, how quickly can we catch it? And how quickly can we say, hey, I love you, and I'm sorry, please forgive me.
Yes.
Or maybe I just love you, and yeah, so that's been a constant practice with me and my father this summer. And
that is going to be a nice, strong practice to go through together, because you're there with him now. So you're in the experience. You're in the wave.
Yeah, well, I'm actually going to go up and talk to him when we get off the call, because it's like in our immediate environment, and sometimes that's just picking up the call, but it could be someone in our house that there's an opportunity, there's an opening to say something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I really appreciate our friendship. I appreciate, the opportunity to have this discussion with you and be playful and it'd be great to talk again and keep creating.
Yes, absolutely, brother. Thank you so much, Moses. I love you so much. Thank you for your transparency, your honesty, your vulnerability, your spirituality, your encouragement, your inspiration. You've taught me so much. I love that. It's funny because, you've always been a teacher for me and have always been a role model for me. And funny because I never thought I'd actually ever meet you in person. The funny, flipping through yoga journal magazines and you're like, oh, that guy looks kind of cool in front of that green bus. What's that all about? He's in Florida. I'm in Florida. Then to find out you're just all aligned. We're all so close, and I get to meet you in person, and our connection was so divine through two spirits that brought us together, that took me under their wing, Keith and Kelly, and then from there just growing into where we are today, and then seeing you again in Costa Rica. It just so happened in two retreats at the same time, and we're in alignment. We're there together. So, and then here we are just being inspired by each other again. And something I never forgot, I never, ever, ever forget. You always told me the first time I ever decided to put a retreat together. And I came to you and I said, and because I called Corbin and I said, Corbin, how do I even put a yoga business together? What do I even do? And he was so grateful to sit with me and have this long conversation of a step-by-step. And then I ask you, Moses, what do I do? How do I do a yoga retreat? What is that all about? And he's like, you're like, you just do it. You pick a date and you just do it. And it was the simplest, the easiest advice I ever got. And ever since those words, that's it. That's all you had to say. You just do it. And ever since then, I have only just utilized that as my personal mantra of everything that I've done ever since I've met you was, just do it. I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to teach a yoga class. Just do it. Pick a day, pick a time, just show up, just go, just do it. And it's never left me. So please know that you've been a huge inspiration in my life.
And thank you for sharing that. And back at you, I think, because, you allow yourself to be kind of touched and inspired by people and by humanity. And it's like, so really I say the same thing back to you, is like seeing you and feeling you be out in the world and sharing just over and over. It's like relentlessly living your life and being in community is so beautiful to see and so uplifting. It touches my heart. And it's just like, yeah, we're one. You are me. We are family. It's like we do make a difference in each other's life, and it's so beautiful to come back to this discussion. We can allow ourselves to get emotional and say, I'm so grateful for these relationships that are nurturing and they're healing and uplifting. So I love you, sister. Thank you so much for your time. And we'll follow up and talk more.
We will. Thank you again.
We're going to do let's do some music next conversation.
Let's do music next conversation. Absolutely.
Okay.
Much love, my brother. I love you. Namaste.